There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am, of course, your host, Nick, and we're back to talk Rod Serling's favorite podcast. Even though he's no longer with us, he would still love us and then yell at us, and then probably write an episode about how we have degraded his series. So, yeah, good times.
4 people in search of a podcast?
Yeah, actually, we're going to change it to 5 or 4 people in search of a podcast. Thank you, Trev. You've come up with a good title.
I try.
I always knew I had you for a reason on this podcast.
That's it? That's it?
Yeah, that's the only reason. Just come up with that one title. You are now officially done. You will not get paid.
Your purpose has been served.
My porpoise has been served?
Your porpoise has
shit,
been
served. Are the dolphins coming after me?
Peter, the horse.
Right.
Damn it.
You will now sit in a circular bin waiting for the rest of your life in the Twilight Zone.
I mean, that's kind of where I reside anyway, so, you know.
Right,
it's relative.
Right. So, anyways, with that said, we're here talking new episode, probably one of the better, more classic episodes of the Twilight Zone. Before we begin, of course, we're on audio feeds, Anchor, SoundCloud. As Jacob wants me to say every week, Audio Boom. He loves the boom. He loves the kaboom of audio booms. Rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Triv, Jacob, I'm sure you guys are good, but we have a special guest back.
Yay!
Someone we've been trying to get back for a while. It's exciting because we finally have someone who can put Jacob in his place for once, keep the podcast on be going off the rails and stuff.
That was,
I mean, as he should be.
always
So.
needed. Very unnecessary there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could just have me on every week. I mean,
yeah, that'd be awesome. Absolutely. But of course, Alex, who's been on several times now, is back. How you doing, Alex? How you been? We haven't talked to you for a while. How's everything going?
I'm good. I'm tired, but yeah.
Are you?
I'm good.
Excellent.
This is a very big microphone.
Tired.
It's zoomed in. It's just how the angle. I'm using my desktop, man. I don't know what else I can do. It's literally on like a microphone stand on my desk. It's nothing else I can do about it, Ben.
Jacob, is the microphone really big, or are you just really small?
It's a ginormous microphone. I don't know. It looks ginormous. It looks like it's like this big.
It's like.
I feel like this is.
Don't make me self-conscious about my microphone. Listen, it does its job.
You have a Shure, so you have a quality microphone. So
you know what? Be proud of your big microphone, Alex. Don't let if he's saying that, he's just jealous. Because of his tiny microphone. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
you got it. Flaunt it.
Yeah,
right there you go.
I will.
Small microphone. Oh, it fell. Come on up, buddy.
We've already failed, Alex. It's nice knowing you. I'm leaving. You guys take over. As you talk about polls and microphones and everything, but characters in search of an exit. I'm going to search for an exit right now. Click. Anyways. So this is an episode we've been talking about for a while. We've joked about this episode for quite a while. It's real. I was actually glad you were able to come on, Alex, because this is an episode that I know you have mentioned many times that I believe you really enjoy, but Jacob has alluded to is this a trash can episode. So we've kind of I don't know why, but kind of taken up that moniker of calling this a trash can episode, which I can only imagine when you were on and maybe listened to us talk about that, kind of were steaming at the ears because it was like, this is not the trash can episode. And I know Trev is trying to be good in your stead of trying to make us not say that, but I don't know. Fifth Dimension apparently is classified this as a trash can episode. Yeah, but I say it in jest. I don't mean it.
Do you though? Do you?
Maybe.
I mean, he said Patrine's Dream wasn't a good episode, so I do question his judgment in general.
That's
his critiquing skills.
I stated facts there.
Facts,
did you notice?
And no, facts are in the behind-the-scenes Twilight Zone books, Jacob. What are not facts are you saying that certain episodes are trash? Just from your own personal eyes and ears. That's
I feel as
different.
if that book says that episode is trash.
Which one though?
Purchase the Dreams.
Ooh.
Well, it depends on it's subjective. Opinions are subjective.
Not this one. This one is fact.
See, this is always a point of contention with our podcast. Jacob's like, man, if I had only been on like one episode prior, this whole podcast would have been completely different. It's like a Twilight Zone of its own, right?
It would have been completely different. Just that episode.
Well, it's butterfly effect. You change small things and big things change. We would end up like in a different arrangement, and like Jeff wouldn't exist or something like that.
Jeff.
I know. He wouldn't be blinking. He'd be blinking upwards instead of downwards,
Exactly.
I don't know what
Did you notice that Nick didn't ask how we were doing?
I did because I know how you guys are doing.
Do you?
Because
do you?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know. Like I said, where's the search for an exit? I'm looking for it still. I'm banging against the wall. I found a clown and a hobo.
That's a tramp. Thank you very much.
Right, tramp. So I'm guessing the 50s and 60s called hobos tramps, like, or is that a Charlie Chaplin thing?
I called them hobos.
Did they? So why did they call him a tramp in this episode? Like, what is the meaning between the tramp and hobo? Anybody know?
Called him a hobo in this episode.
Like they called him a tramp at the very beginning. It was the major ballerina tramp, guy in skirt and
the bagpiper.
Yeah, bagpiper.
Yeah,
actually, in fact, the opening says clown, hobo, ballet dancer, bagpiper, and an army major.
Well, aren't you special on a stick? They call him a tramp at one point.
Well, I just want to know why they called him tramps to begin with.
Called a tramp.
Is that a Charlie Chaplin thing? Anybody know?
Maybe. I imagine
there was Lady and the Tramp. So I'm assuming that term was used
like a ruffian almost.
I would imagine maybe it's like how there's multiple names for multiple things, because the tramp, like, I don't think Charlie Chaplin would have coined that term. He probably like it was probably existing vernacular.
Oh,
and that's me pulling out my big words.
Vernacular.
Vernacular.
Here's the definition.
Like
because they were tramping around the countryside.
Smile when you say it.
Vernacular.
According to hobos, were sometimes called tramps because they were tramping across the countryside. However, this is not to be confused with later uses of the word tramp in comparison to hobos. The tramp. Okay, so
that's the later uses are the ones I know, but they're tramps. They don't. They're dirty. They used to be
a few tramps apparently. Jacob,
clean.
Stealing my jokes, Jacob. Stealing my terrible jokes. Damn you. I was just curious because, like I said, Charlie Chaplin was always called the tramp, but he always looked like a hobo. So it's just like, I was kind of curious if anybody knew what that meant, but either way, he's called a tramp and a hobo in this episode. So I don't know if that's offensive or not or whatnot. So with that said, we are going to talk about one of the most famous episodes of the Twilight Zone. This, of course, is season 3, episode 14, called 5 Characters in Search of an Exit, directed by Lamont Johnson, written by Rod Serling. Based off a story by Marvin Patel named The Depository. Production code 4805, air date December 22nd, 1961, so right before Christmas. And it stars William Windom, Murray Matheson, Susan Harrison, Kelton Garwood, and Clark Allen. Okay, so this episode is, like I said, up there with one of the most famous episodes. I think it's more on the kind of twist ending that it has more than anything. But Alex, since you're our guest host on this episode, you came on. I'm assuming you like this episode, but what, like, going into this episode, have you seen this episode quite a bit, and what's your overall take on this episode?
I have seen this episode a few times, not super recently. I wasn't able to watch it before appearing on the podcast, so I'm going over recollection, so bear with me.
No worries.
I would say, I guess from when I recall, like, watching it, I think honestly, I think it's one of those episodes that like you won't be able to watch for the very first time ever again. Like, it's kind of one of those episodes where I think, like, it's really enthralling, like, the first time you watch it, because, you see kind of that handful of essentially just sort of like caricatures. And you're just as curious about what they're doing there, or like what the purpose of the episode is the entire time, because you aren't exactly sure. And I think especially for it being, kind of in season, we're in season 3, right?
Yep.
I had to double check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because we're like smack dab in the middle of the Twilight Zone, and for those who've kept up with the series, I think it's even more, there's a lot more, I guess, sort of curiosity and speculation over, or even like theorizing, I would say, towards like where the episode could go, because we've seen an infinite amount of possibilities up to this point. But I'd say that's kind of what, I think that big hook of kind of having that giant cylinder with the characters kind of sort of stuck there and wondering what in the heck they even are doing there, I think is something that definitely pulled me in at first. And then when it kept going until the twist, I just kind of, my mouth opened a bit, like, whoa, like that was really good kind of thing. I was like, I'm gonna put a note by that one to talk about it later. Sort of thing. So.
I mean, it's the same thing with you guys. Like, Jacob, I know you always go that you don't remember these episodes very well, but do you remember this episode at all?
I do.
You
I
do?
did.
I kind of
Holy
figured you
shit.
would. This is one of those episodes like most people would remember. I just had to double check. I had to be safe.
I remember this trash can episode.
I'm not for that. I'm not adding in the boom kaboom.
Oh man.
My silent explosion.
I was gonna say it seemed like
like a-
because it was behind you, it almost seemed like an explosive fart or something.
Absolutely.
Versus like an explosion.
Silent
That's
but
supposed to make you
deadly.
look cool.
That could be an explosion.
Oh man, she's giving me ideas now. Not an explosion. It's gonna be like the explosion from Last Jedi. It's just gonna come up like out of like, but yeah, I mean, like Jacob said, I know Triv, you've seen this episode many times too, so
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you remember this episode and it's
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of wheelings and dealings.
Even if you don't know I feel like it's kind of like To Serve Man, or Time Enough at Last. Like, even if you don't know the name of the episode, it's been parodied and talked about enough where you see it and you kind of know it. Like, it's not quite as big as like Time Enough at Last, but I do still think it's one of those where there's enough talking about it in pop culture where you're gonna know it, or at least be familiar with the idea.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. I don't remember like beat for beat until I watched it tonight of this episode, because it has like you guys, it's been a while. But I remember the dynamics of the characters and how uniquely interesting they are. Basically the episode, to get into it, the episode opens up with the army major played by Windom, who wakes up kind of despondent. He doesn't know where he's at. He's confused, and I'm pretty sure any one of us, you guys can attest to this or talk on this, would be scared shitless if you wake up in a room and there's no windows or walls. There's only an opening at the top, and you literally, like he says, you feel like you're in hell. So I don't know how you guys would feel like that waking up. That's the most interesting, is it literally is one character at first who wakes up and has no idea what he's doing. So I don't know how you guys feel about that idea.
I mean, I don't want to talk about the last time I woke up in a ballet outfit, but that's.
I figured
that's
you
me.
woke up in the clown outfit or something like that.
I mean that too, but
the British
I
thespian
knew,
clown.
But I knew why.
I fell asleep in the clown outfit, and I woke up in the ballerina outfit.
Well, as long as you don't wake up in
Also
that
missing
troll
a kidney.
outfit.
But this begs the question: they're in this stark white,
Yeah,
I guess white. I don't know. It's black and white, but this bright room, more or less bright. Pretty much, you can see every angle. There's no corners, nowhere to hide, and he doesn't see any of these other people.
They were in shadows.
I guess.
I mean,
They're all Batman.
he's staring at a wall.
And can we
Jacob,
also
he's
talk
staring
about
at
how
a
this
wall.
guy straight up looks like budget William H. Macy? Like when he came on, I
He
was
does.
like, it's fucking Mystery Men. It's budget William H. Macy.
I mean, he does start with Angela Lansbury, Murder, She Wrote. So,
Oh, there you go.
yeah. I mean, I
One
don't know
other-
if that has. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
One other kind of fun point with this episode, and like there are a lot of these Twilight Zone episodes inspire other things. This actually inspired The Cube,
You can totally
Like
see the movie
like
Cube.
the movie. The Cube.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
did not know that. That
Well, consider
makes a lot of
yourself
sense.
schooled or something. Yeah. Only they weren't in a charity container.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. I was just letting you guys talk. I have no idea what happened in like the past 2 minutes.
That's okay.
Dude, this is what our podcast is reverted to. Nobody has any idea what we're talking about anymore. We just kind of go with the flow and hope for the best.
I wish I can just
no,
recap it, but I can't.
well, no, but like, yeah, that's why I kind of like go through the plot, because sometimes that happens where somebody forgets or doesn't forget, but they don't have a chance to watch the episode. But no, basically the major wakes up and he doesn't know where he's at, and he runs into a clown who's this British thespian of an individual who I actually think is amazingly done by Matheson. He just like I don't know the best way to explain it, but he has this like aura of like very sad clown, very happy clown, kind of switches back and forth. But the idea basically is the clown is kind of like the guy who gave up and just kind of sits there and acts like the Joker, but also is so sad that he just like doesn't know what to do with his life anymore. And then the rest of the characters come in. They're all coming in by the bagpipers bagpipes, and they just kind of start talking about where they are and why they are and existence and who, what, why, where, when. Like nobody has any idea what they're doing, but they've kind of given up on trying to figure it out. Yeah, that's basically the kind of the opening premise of the ballerina is this very posh kind of
she's posh and you put your hands right in front of your chest. Is that posh?
I don't know. I'm trying to come up with the best word, but
she's elegant. She's got that, like, all of them kind of embody like the classic tropes of their characters. The major is very much like out front, like, where are we? Let's do this and that. He's trying to be a problem solver. The clown is very sassy and making people laugh while still dealing with all his stuff. The tramp doesn't really say much. Bagpiper.
Yeah,
he didn't have to.
Yeah.
He just needs a fire and a trash can.
We got William H. Macy.
Nickname him. You can always nickname him like.
Oh, I got you covered.
Something.
We got William H. Macy. We got John Wayne Gacy. We got Black Swan, Hobo with a Shotgun, and William Wallace. Cast of characters done.
I didn't realize.
I like to name I was just saying we should like nickname the homeless guy Jeremy to give him an identity.
I mean, I guess we could do Jeremy, but Hobo with a Shotgun. Which would you rather be called?
I mean, Jeremy is more concise. If you have to say Hobo with a Shotgun every single time,
my idea is better.
Percival Smithers. Maybe that's why he's a hobo, because his front name was Percival. He hated it so much that he became a hobo. So now his name is just Hobo.
So is that why he's in the bin, because he didn't get his Christmas present? So he's trying to give somebody else a Christmas present.
He got dunked in the trash.
Alex, for reference, this goes back to what is the Christmas episode?
It's Night of the Meek. Basically, there's a young kid named Percival Smithers, and it's like a whole running
Smithers.
joke. Yeah.
And he wishes for Christmas, like what he wants from Santa is a new front name. Front name.
Want a new front name? What's your name? Percival Smithers.
Anyways, so basically before Rod started speaking and letting Jacob speak the lines, they just like they wake up in the darkness. They have no idea where they're at. It's basically one of those things where like it almost feels like they have kind of just been put there for whatever reason. They been drugged, or they just kind of went into existence, like being born or whatnot. And it's pretty crazy to think about, being stuck in a place that you have no idea where you're at, no walls, like you said, like Cube, no way of escaping, and just the sad nature and horrifying nature. And I don't know if you agree or not, Alex, the perfect type of Twilight Zone episode that fits into this realm of Rod Serling, because they actually talk about things that Rod Serling has done stories about. Like they talk about like whether they're in a spaceship or they're in another planet or they're dead, or they go on and on and on. I'm like, I was telling Trim, I'm like, this is awfully familiar to Rod Serling just basically venting on the stories that he's done before in a very interesting kind of, each character feels like a trope that's been in a Twilight Zone episode before. So I don't know how you feel about that kind of stuff when going into that kind of tropey stuff that Rod Serling's talked about before.
I do think it's quite distinct with how much of like caricatures they are, which is definitely, I guess, foreshadowing towards the end for sure. I'd say like more of the other episodes can tend to be just kind of typical people placed in like extraordinary situations, but in here it's almost seems like I don't know, just kind of a different sort of dynamic between kind of the characters in the story they're in, sort of thing in comparison, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's it almost feels like that Rod Serling was kind of using tropes that he's using as like a little bit of fourth wall breaking, a little bit kind of having these characters kind of be his surrogate for like things he's talked about before, which he does that a lot in a lot of his stories that he writes for this series, where it goes into details about like his thoughts and ideas and his fears of like society. And it kind of feels like that here, where you're stuck in a place that you can't get out of, and what does that do to someone's psyche? And being stuck like overseas, you can't be near your family, you can't do all this. So like the different characters represent kind of sad lives of individuals that are kind of lonely, so they get put into this predicament where they throw out those fears. I don't know, that's how I looked at it. But do you guys have any things on that?
You could see it as being in a bad situation too, like your rage against everything, shout into the void and all that stuff, and ultimately you're just stuck with a bagpiper and a sassy clown and a ballerina.
Yep.
Oh man, no,
Other
I mean,
than
yeah,
a neat eclectic collection of characters. I mean, they needed to have like this very interesting roster of characters, so that they want you thinking about where are they, what is going on, and all this and that. But they can't, like, given what we know about the ending, they can't put a space ranger and stuff like that to allude to that ending. So they need you to just, I think they needed interesting enough type of characters just by looking at them. They're very stereotypical of like what their characters are. They are their names, essentially: a bagpiper, army major, army man, hobo, dancer, clown, all that. So they wanted characters, I think, that you could just instantly look at and let know, I know what that is. That's a clown. That's a homeless guy. That's so then you could start focusing on, what is this? What's going on here? And it didn't really go, and which makes sense by the time you get to the end, it didn't really go much into like their distinct personalities beyond, the army guy is going to be very like steadfast and all that. The clown's going to be kind of like dismissive and and the hobo's just like, well, fuck, I don't know. And so I think that that's, I'm going to say that's probably why they picked those characters or character types, maybe.
Well, and
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
kind of like, oh, sorry.
no, I mean, yeah, it's just interesting to me, like, he could have picked like any number of characters. And I don't know, that's kind of where I was like, what I was trying to say was, it feels like he's using kind of the loneliness of each of these characters. The clown is sad. He, as most comedians and people
Crying
that
on the
work in the
inside.
business of, yeah, like, I heard a story about how, Jim Carrey was so depressed that he almost killed himself, but he's like a really funny guy. It's like here, it's like this clown embodies like everything that a humorous person can inhabit. It's the same thing with the major. He inhabits everything about the strong will, trying to find every possible exit. The ballet dancer is kind of like the free spirit. The hobo is just kind of there watching, as normal people do, and the bagpiper just I don't know, playing music and doing what he does. But I don't know, that's just how I look at it. Like, I was kind of when I was watching it, but everybody could have different interpretations. So I don't know.
I would say also just the fact that it's, there's a, not a ton, but there's enough episodes that are kind of like set in one location. So, if it's Nervous Man in a $4 room or the Invaders or things like that, like it's a very they limit themselves, and sometimes it works really awesomely and sometimes it's, works not as well. And it's always that question of, how is this limit are they gonna rise above because of it, or is it gonna, tank them?
Personally, I love those like single setting stories in the Twilight Zone and otherwise. I mean, like something like this. Doctor Who did an episode about, what did we read it the other
Oh,
week?
no. Oh, you should have been on last week. That'd been perfect. No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
We're front loading.
Yeah.
No, at first I was
Yeah,
like, well, wait. We're going too
No.
far.
Yeah, because
Last
ironically,
week we did it
Rod
at the end.
right? Hey, don't spoil anything. No, but no. In all honesty, there's like, I don't know, there's probably like 6 minutes before he starts talking. So they bring up like a lot of like What's that word called when they get into the psyche? There's a specific word for it, and I can't remember.
Psychology?
I'm too tired. No, not psychology.
Introspection?
No,
It's not the
it's
right word.
Tacos?
yeah, no, you're good. Tacos. Did you say
Yes.
tacos?
Yeah.
I just said tacos.
Yes. Triv
Burrito.
just won the
Burrito.
Taco, 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 taco,
Gordita.
taco, taco, burrito.
Oh my god. Anyways,
Burrito.
actually, let me ask you
Taco,
this,
taco,
Alex, so I
taco,
can keep
taco,
us back on
taco.
track.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: like, how do you feel about those one room setting episodes, like what we were just talking about? Like, do you like those episodes? Like, how do you? Because these type of episodes, especially like this one, make me nervous because being stuck in a place that I can't escape from is like the most terrifying thing outside of being stuck outside of a building and falling and stuff like that. And I'm curious to like how you feel about these types of episodes. Like, are they your favorites? Like, do you have ones that specifically you enjoy more that you gravitate towards?
I mean, I'd say they could be a lot of fun. I think definitely if they were like up to an hour versus closer to 30 minutes, I think that'd be a stretch, especially with like kind of in this sort of, I guess, environment where there really isn't much to work with aside
Yeah.
from just kind of the walls and then sort of the lighting, like the like upper lit lighting, I would say. I don't know. I think it just depends on kind of the environment that you set the actors in because there's a lot of it sort of reminded me of like when I watched The Outer Limits about how there are certain episodes where an episode like The Second Chance, for example, is about this like alien who essentially goes to this theme park and basically like coordinated this entire plan. This is a random tangent, but like this alien coordinated an entire plan basically to like abduct a group of people from a theme park and like actually made like this rocket ship attraction like an actual like rocket, or I guess it was like an actual rocket ship. I don't know if this alien either like worked on it to then have it be operational or if it already was. Essentially once they're in space, that's kind of all the actors really have to work with, and you kind of are just focused on sort of the characters about how all of them have these sort of, I guess, sort of redemption arcs or sort of tensions between them kind of thing. But I think it just ultimately, but like all of it essentially does take place on the ship itself because they're in space. Otherwise, it's not like they really had spacesuits to try to escape or anything. Like there are situations where I think characters are placed in those kind of scenarios, and I think it just depends on like how it's set up and how it's executed ultimately. But I think definitely having the pacing and having sort of the runtime kind of be advantages towards like how you tell the story definitely play a role for sure.
I think that's something
Yeah,
this episode does a bit different than a lot of single setting stories. Is a lot of the time you have these single setting episode or stories that the setting, it's almost like it forces them to have like a really good story if they're going to keep it interesting, and typically really interesting, engaging characters. And like something like Cube or that Dr. Who episode I was talking about, or even Saw. I mean, that's like a drawn out version. It goes outside of those walls a bit, but this one, the characters, like we were talking about, basically their stereotypes that go along with who they are, but it's not so much about the characters. For me, at least, it didn't seem like the characters were super engaging. I mean, they were engaging enough, I guess, but it was more about the debacle that they had going on. How are we going to figure this out and get out of here? I don't think this would have worked as an hour-long episode.
I would say the writing really did like make or break it though. Because otherwise, I think if the writing didn't work to where we didn't get to know the characters or even sort of the elements that were foreshadowed as to like why they even were there, sort of how they are, who they are kind of thing, I think it wouldn't have worked either.
Yeah, and this episode feels really much like if you were watching a play on stage. Like you have to have actors who can sell a singular set with the kind of tropes that they have to deal with, because if you put like people that are not what I would consider stage thespians, which a lot of these guys feel like stage thespians, especially the guy who plays a clown, I don't think this episode would have worked as well, because it would have felt a little cheesy and a little tropey, and it would have felt not right. Like the guy who plays the clown feels like that he could have taken this character and done like a one-man stage play and it would have been riveting. But here, if they had brought in somebody, I don't know, anybody that couldn't produce when it comes to acting in this kind of small template, I think it wouldn't have worked. But that's just kind of how I
So
look
John
at it.
Wayne as the clown wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, John. Yeah, that would have been funny
Howdy,
as hell.
partner. Ha, ha, ha. I'm a clown.
Have
I don't know. Is that how John Wayne
Impeccable
goes?
acting. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
Yeah,
speechless.
oh, just
This is
you
like
wait
my
till we.
audition. They like me. They really like me.
Call him your
Not him
face,
seeking
Sally Field.
validation from the internet, though.
That's all my validations from the internet.
Shit. All right. So with that said, Jacob, let's do the opening narration. Finally, 30 minutes into the episode.
Yes, of course. Clown, hobo, ballet dancer, bagpiper, and an army major. A collection of question marks. 5 improbable entities stuck together into a pit of darkness. No logic, no reason, no explanation. Just a prolonged nightmare in which fear, loneliness, and the unexplainable walk hand in hand through the shadows. In a moment, we'll start collecting clues as to the whys, the whats, the wheres. We will not end the nightmare. We will only explain it, because this is the trash can zone.
Actually, Jacob, it's the Twilight Zone.
Oh my god!
Didn't know what I said. Oh, I'm sorry. Must have flubbed my
Well, I
line.
don't know. You kind of stuttered at hand in hand.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. You
Nick,
were there
They're
for
just a
like
normal
half
day
Editing.
recording.
Acting.
See, it's all staying in now, Jacob. The
You
God
leave
has
it in
spoken.
anyway. Every time I screw up a line, he leaves it in there.
I don't
You
leave it
would
all
think that
in.
you would
I just-
rehearse
You got
these
something.
before, Jacob.
Huh?
I would think that you would rehearse these at least once.
You don't do
But-
like
I
I mean,
Shakespeare
you've done
with
this
your
for
goats or
how
something?
long,
Your
Jacob?
chickens?
How long?
I'll
Have
start
you been
rehearsing
saying the
them.
narrations.
I'll start
Alex,
rehearsing them in season 6.
Alex, I hate to admit, like I guess those 11 episodes Jacob wasn't on really screwed him up, and now we're paying for it with his quotes on Rod Serling's Twilight Zone.
I mean,
Is that
we'll
right?
never
Is that-
know. We can only perchance to dream what it would be like had I been there.
Oh, good lord. Here we go.
We've jumped into the fever, fallen out of 2-foot window. So, anyway,
And I was on one of those episodes. Episode
I
8.
don't know.
That's his claim to fame. He's like, yeah, I was on that one episode. It was the best one of season 1. Yeah.
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 Oh,
Yeah.
man. So with that said, this episode continues. So the episode continues. The episode. Jesus Christ. This episode's gonna be like 3 minutes long, and me just
All right,
shaking my head.
Everybody, shut up!
Shit.
The cashew.
Cassowary. Damn it.
Cassowary. So, anyways, back to what I was doing before I forgot what I was doing. Basically, the most of the story continues with the whole thing of like the major's trying to find a way to escape. The clown thinks it's cute, that he's trying to escape, and kind of sits in the background moping. And the Scotsman every once in a while will play music, and the ballerina will dance. And
That's so weird. I'm not gonna lie, like that combination is just like, oh, let's do peanut butter and fried eggs, which actually is a good combination, but still, it's like not the first combination that you would put together.
I do got some questions about some of these characters once we get to our ending reveal.
Sure, but
It's about tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
What? Oh,
That was just like the most random. Like, I have something to say, but I'll say it
I got something to
later.
say. I do that
You
every
just
week.
put a pin in it. It's compelling, I swear.
Every week.
It's gonna be awesome. Just you wait.
I got something to say, but we'll talk about it later.
Gotta wait for my moment.
Not right now.
The kind of the interesting things brought up in this segment are like when they talk about their existential crisis of like, are they dead? Are they dream figures in someone else's existence and stuff like that? Then the major brings up well, don't you guys eat? Don't you guys drink? Who brings it down? Is it, the guy from Silence of the Lambs? Does he want to put lotion on the skin? Like what
Puts
exactly is
lotion on the
happening?
skin,
Wow.
Right.
That went dark.
or gets the
But
hose
they,
again.
God. I mean, what do you guys think about this whole existential crisis that this group is having? Like the major is literally trying everything in his power, and they're just like, whatever. We'll have the ballerina dance with Scottish music, and the clown will sit with the pot of a flower on his head.
Jeremy.
I'm sorry,
He's
Jeremy.
the only one.
Thank you.
Come on, I want
He's the only
Jeremy
one that
to
has a name.
stick, man. We're 2023. We don't have. We can evade using.
The only one who
know.
has any issue here is the major. Everybody else is just kind of resigned to their fate, and they're there just like, yeah, we're here. Well, where is here? It's here
Somewhere.
And he's the only one who's like, let's get the fuck out of here. And they're like, I'm gonna dance around. I'm gonna play my bagpipes, and Jeremy's gonna Jeremy.
I think that's
Yeah.
like an animalistic response, right? Like if you put like a pet, for example, in a crate because like, you're going out to dinner with somebody or whatever, hypothetical scenario. But like, let's say, a pet was in a crate wanting to escape. I think it's only going to try to claw out so much before it just sort of surrenders itself, kind of knowing that there would possibly be resolution at the end of it, of like
That
being
is true.
released from it.
Well, and two, we don't get a time of how long the other four are there, but there's always that, we haven't tried this, and then I'm gonna break my sword that's subpar that wouldn't, chop.
Oh yeah, I laughed.
you know.
Knowing that, like as Alex had mentioned earlier, knowing the ending, that actually makes it a lot more funnier, which is not meant to be funny, but it's like knowing what you know about the ending of this episode. It's like, man, if they only knew. Which actually brings in a lot of questions about that. I don't know, maybe Jacob was alluding to, just on the nature of like how this world operates with what we see at the end. So I don't know. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be interesting to talk about, but I just like the fact that the sword breaks, like it's made out of like, I don't know, plastic or something like that, or it's made out of like, whatever thing it's made out of. And
I was expecting that when he broke it to be like, it's made out of plastic.
I don't know if it. Well, I guess the stuff would have been.
I don't know if. Well, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I don't know if stuff. Well, and I don't know. I think. Well, maybe not. I don't know if stuff would have been mass produced in plastic at that point as far as toys, or if it would have been more. I guess you had Barbies
maybe it's
and
like
stuff,
a thin
so
metal or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's like a thin aluminum or something like that.
Aluminium.
There you go.
Aluminium.
All
I mean, I was
fancy.
gonna say
Vibranium.
like I think there's only certain familiar, I guess, materials or elements that like those characters would be familiar with, so it wouldn't be as unfamiliar. Like if they think of it as a sword, they're probably gonna assume it's just kind of like how a sword would be, and not,
Yeah,
I guess, think too deeply about it.
absolutely.
That's just my thinking.
A cigar is just a cigar.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to think about, like, what is their logic, and like this guy has a flower pot on the top of his head that they never kind of speak to.
Hey,
And it's,
hey,
Never
flower
falls off
pots
either.
are freaking hilarious.
It's like that little beanie that they got from that show Oz used to wear. It just never falls off. It's just kind of like there.
oh, like the Return to Oz or whatever it was. Wasn't that?
Oh, the show
wasn't
Oz
Scarecrow
back
wearing
in the
that?
day on HBO.
Oh,
The
Oz,
prison
the one
show
with
with all
the guy
the-
from Lost.
Oh,
The flower pot thing. Like, I gotta ask you guys that question. Like, who was your favorite character in this episode? Kind of. The problem with this episode is not the fact that it's not good. It's just a lot of them talking about like their existential crisis of where they're at. They're trying to escape. That's kind of all it is of this episode. So there's not really like a lot of detail you can go into. So I'm just gonna say, like, what's your guys' favorite character in this episode?
I mean, I was gonna say it's giving Twilight Zone, Nick.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a good
That's true.
majority of characters in their defense.
That is very
No,
true.
I know. I'm just like, when you get into an
Mhm.
episode, like there's like, for instance, the shelter or something like that. There's a lot of interesting things going on in that episode. Here it's just a lot of them discussing, like, how they got to this point, when they got to this point, the major like trying to escape from this point. And I don't know. It just, there's a lot of stuff that I wrote down. A lot of it's like they tried to escape, but this was their universe, the reality, but the major wants nothing of it, and the clown points out it's too high. It's it's not like a lie. It's not like The Passerby or the last week's episode, which is Once Upon a Time, where it is a lot of sight gags and stuff like that. The biggest thing in here is the loud church bell noise that shakes the bin and or the room that they're in. So I mean, it's how you guys feel about a lot of this kind of being just about
My
them
favorite
talking.
character.
He holds it close.
Anyways, no, yeah, but back to what I was asking. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the clown just because just that sarcastic, sassy, but very for all of the sassy and cheekiness, he did have he was pointing out the very obvious, the very much dude, we've tried this, we've tried that. Oh, hey, we tried this too. Everything you're saying is we've essentially tried, and he brings up logical points, and he's kind of the polar opposite of the major, which I thought was pretty great.
I was also gonna say the clown, but I think it was more so because I the banter between him and the major I think is what really ultimately drives the episode further along. And then even though all 5 of them are in a way leading characters, I would say the major and clown are kind of the 2 ultimately leading ones, and then the other 3 are kind of more in supporting roles, but in a way where they still kind of offer a purpose.
Yeah, and like I said, the characters are strong. It just, like I said, more characters have more to do than other ones, and the clown character, I just feel is giving the main actor is giving his all. And it's not saying that the other ones aren't, but it feels like there is a lot of depth to a character that is just basically a sad clown. And I kind of like that. I kind of like what Murray's doing. I like the fact that he is kind of pointing out the ridiculousness of the situation, but the fact that he's kind of given up on the situation. And the other characters are just kind of background characters, maybe.
And to some extent, but I think you can't, you've got to have multiple different kinds of personalities in there too. The ballerina kind of inhabits that endless hope and that desire for love. They all have the 2 sides of the same coin. So it's she's hopeful and everything, but yet she's so desperate. You can see how much she wants love. I mean, in some of the things that she says, the major is, fighting against this terrible, certainty of not being able to do it, what is it? Fighting against the dying of the light, raging against the dying of the light. The clown has the very funny stuff, but what he's saying is very straightforward and down to earth. The Jeremy doesn't say much, but when he does, it's a very truthful, straightforward bit. And I mean, the bagpiper just bagpipes. He provides a soundtrack for what is essentially a story as old as time, sorrowful but meaningful, the song of his people.
Yeah, I was ready to go to war after hearing that. Speaking of soundtracks, I would say it's been you got a friend in me.
This did feel very much like a dark side version of the Toy Story.
You're spoiling things.
Dark side of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I said, here's another question I have. I guess then you stick this in a 2000 I can't talk, a 2023 version. Who could you see as the different characters? Would you put in different characters instead of Jeremy, the ballet dancer,
Bumblebee,
clown, major? Would you put it I don't know, how would you structure a story like this in today's modern society compared to what
I'm
it was
Trash
back
Can
then?
Barbie.
You need to throw that idea into the trash yesterday.
But dang.
Wow.
You have Bumblebee,
God.
you have Barbie, you have I don't know, what's another popular toy?
But I feel like it'd be way
Transformer.
too
Squishmallow.
obvious though if they went the Toy Story route, right? If they just had a mix of different, I guess, toys.
Well,
I think what makes it work here is that they're all human with
well, actually, that's a good point.
specific
Actually,
sort of archetypes. Because if they kind of had I don't know, like a life-size teddy bear or something, where interacting
give
with
it
the
away.
ballerina or something, or if it was
That'd be frightening.
I don't know, or if the toy soldier was like more of a toy soldier type, like
Yeah.
like if you think about like the ones at like the Disneyland parade, like when you look at them as like very like animated, that's what I'm like. I think if they were more animated and like non-real, like if they were non-human, I think that would just give it away a lot faster.
Well, that's actually a good
or
point.
like yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that's a good point that you bring up. Would this episode even work today? Like, if you think about it, in the 1960s, they were playing with these types of figures where they're like, they were, gigantic, like human characters. So they had like GI Joes, and I think Barbie was around at this time. I think it came out in the 50s or something like that.
Yeah.
So would this episode work? Like, some of the episodes in the Twilight Zone could work today, and like if you structure them like, in better form or fashion. But I don't know. That's an interesting thing that you brought up about using like Transformers, or I may use GI Joe, but like today, would it work? Would it work in the same fashion?
They could have had a teddy bear in there, and from their perspective, it was just a fucking bear. And it would have been like Cocaine Bear. It would have been chasing them around this thing in the bottom.
That would have been like 30 minutes of just them being chased by
with Benny Hill music.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was gonna say that like I feel like it could work. You would just have to probably use different character types. Like I guess
Right.
today would use like a suit, like a, I don't know, like
a firefighter.
Yeah, or like I was saying like a superhero kind of thing, but like have it be like a generic, like one that isn't based off of anything. Or like you could have like a Barbie type kind of girl placed in that sort of position, or like you would just have to. I don't think that the kinds of characters that they use for this episode would work in today's age. I think especially with I don't know. I think ultimately it would depend. I just think that you would just have to use different characters, that because even then arguably the characters that are in there can like debatably be toys that, or sorry,
well, we're finna talk about that.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, to be fair, people know this episode, so you're good.
I think it does depend on if kids even objectively want to play with the toys that are in like sort of the like in search of an exit in the first place kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like who the fuck has a hobo toy? I mean, that was my question.
Well, I don't know if he has a hobo toy, but I know somebody has a Jeremy toy. Does that work?
I mean, a clown toy. Okay,
Jeremy's one. Listen, if he was named Jeremy, someone would be like, "Yeah, this guy vibes." This guy's going on a shelf. You know what I mean? But like, I mean, that's the thing too. It's like even if they were like human-like, but not exactly human either, I don't think it would work. Like if they were like all Lego figures, and they were like in a bin of Legos, they'd be like, "Well, that's really fucking obvious." Like, duh,
I mean, I guess the Lego movie kind of did that.
It would have to be something like
it
wouldn't take on the same like she said, like Alex said earlier, like if it was all superhero characters and you think it's a superhero thing, and maybe they are generic because it's a movie and you get generic superhero movie characters, they're all superheroes but they're trapped in this thing, they can't get out. No, someone must have stolen my powers or something, blah 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 blah. You can still do the same thing, but I don't know if you could do it with just regular people, because how many just regular, I mean, I guess you could throw Justin Bieber down there or something. He's not popular anymore, but like something like that. But I mean, beyond doing
archetypes that, though, is the thing. Like what makes it work is that they are kind of archetypes that don't really like, there's emotional depth but not like personal depth, if that makes sense, with the characters. Like it's not like they don't necessarily have, like, it's not even like Toy Story, right, where
they don't
the
have
characters
backstories
themselves don't have backstories.
That's what I was saying earlier.
They don't have the runtime anyway, unless they do it for like an hour or something. So
that's what I was saying earlier. Like these characters, I think everything we need to know is within their identity. Their identity is like what they are. You're a clown. And that's what you are.
That makes the costumes really good though in this episode though.
Oh yeah, the clown costume is amazing. Like it's one of the best things I've seen in the series. But I think that's also what makes this episode work. Is it's simple. It's not like, it doesn't really make you, like, as we've done in the past, comprehend the existence of your life or the existence of humanity. It's just a bunch of characters who are stuck in a place and question there is existential crisis stuff going on, but it's not like overpowering to the point where it almost is like trying to beat you over the head. It's just, how do we get out of this like really terrible situation, and are we willing to do everything in our power? Because I mean, you think about it, like the only way they can get out of this is by doing what cheerleaders do and like step on top of each other to have somebody on
A
the
human
top.
centipede.
Yeah, very
World War II.
60s human centipede. Yeah.
And how
but-
about
think the
those
ladders-
1966 Batman special effects as they were standing on each other? And
Oh, I saw that. I was just like, oh my god, that's so awesome. It
Oh,
was
they're
such a
doing, like,
Batman
the-
style climb.
They're
Yeah.
doing like the Spider-Man thing where you can tell that the Major's actually sitting, like he's on the ground, that he's climbing up. It's very noticeable, but it's a good effect. It works, but it's just, yeah.
oh, I loved it, but it was absolutely Batman 66 effects. Climbing
I
up the
think
side
that's
of
what
the
makes the
building.
cinematography work too, because you wouldn't be able to, because it does look like, you know, the actors are a lot more vertical than they probably actually are. I mean, it probably did that for safety reasons, obviously, but
Oh yeah.
I think even for having such a claustrophobic space, you know, for what it's worth, the camera movement was, you know, from what I recall, was diverse enough to where, you know, it was still interesting to engage with the characters, and like you kind of felt that. So what's a cylindrical, is that a word?
Oh, the
Mhm.
Or like a cylinder, like
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
sort of
Cylindrical, that's a word.
bucket like.
Yeah, thanks. I was trying not to sound like a dumbass.
Bucket like.
Like cylindrical is a word.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
totally is. One thing though, going back to what Nick was saying about the kind of episode and stuff, yeah, it is a simple story, but I do think that it touches on things like those internal fears about like waking up and not knowing where you are, or there is that inherent fear in all of us. Like you wake up, and I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you do wake up in the morning after a really hard sleep and you're like, oh god, where am I? Like you don't necessarily know what day it is. It's not to that extent, but I do think, you know, that is a very realistic fear that you could play off of.
Yeah.
Wake up
I
and your
love
ass
the
hurts and
mate-
you're peeing all over the place. Just what the hell?
Exactly.
What happened last
I love
night?
how oh god.
Why am I
I
hanging
love how
from
the-
a tree in my jock strap? Not that I
Why am I in
did
a
that.
zoo?
Why am I
Why am
wearing a
I
jock
covered in
strap?
blood?
I don't know.
But no, I like the Major's, like he's being overly dramatic. He's like, you know what? We have to be in it takes him for like 5 minutes to actually explain where he thinks they're at. And he's like, yeah, I'm in this place. We're all in this place. And I'm telling you what, it's crazy, and everything's going downhill. You know where we're at? I'll tell you in just a second, right before the act break, but it's craziness. And he finally says they're in hell and God help them all. And I think the clown laughs like after the act break and stuff like that. But
Well, you know why they wait until nearly the act break? Because they figure that like YouTube videos, you know, they stop watching after the first 30 seconds or like minute. So they know that they're okay to say the word hell in 1962 or 1961.
They could say
well,
it.
yeah.
I know that
I
they
know,
could say it, but they could only say it when referencing the actual play. You could say it as like referencing hell itself. You couldn't just be like, what the hell? I don't know why, but that's how it worked apparently back then.
I could see that.
I just like the fact that it took him 5 minutes to say it. Like I'm like, just say it. What are you trying to say?
Spit it out!
Hades!
H-E double hockey sticks. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
The other place.
The pizza joint?
But I mean,
All right. Woohoo.
but I mean, they are in their own personal hell at the moment. I mean, they're stuck with a clown, a sad clown. It's like, can't you be funny? I wonder if actually these plays Luigi Pirandello, 6 characters, Search of an Author, and Gene Paul. I wonder if they pull from any of like if there's any similarities to kind of the character arcs and the development, because I'm pretty sure like these two stories weren't about people stuck in a whatever they're stuck in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always fascinating when like
yeah.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just remembered it being based on something, which I know not all of them usually are, but I kind of remember this one for whatever reason kind of being based off of something. And then when he mentions the sort of like theatricality of the clown, it sort of reminded me of that. And I was like,
Oh,
oh,
absolutely.
it is based off of two
Nice.
different sort of plays.
Just by the title, 6 characters in search of an author, you do kind of get that like that fictional character, and they always talk about the struggles of writing characters a certain way, and they always seem to like pull their own direction and things like that. So not that that has any bearing here, but just generally it sounds like it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, it's this is another thing that we never ever talk about, but I love the fact that these stories, and a lot of times a lot of stories in fiction and movies and television they're pulled from like some of the most obscure stuff that you'll ever read, and it actually is really nice because I can't think of it, like maybe Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that is like the easiest pull, that it allows these characters, these stories to find a new medium, a new popularity through the eyes of somebody who loves that stuff. That's why I love when directors and writers will start talking about a story that you've never heard of before, and when you read it, you're like, oh, that's kind of awesome. And it's the same thing here in the Twilight Zone. Rod Serling and Richard Matheson and all the writers he's had, they always pull from these like really obscure stuff, and then when you read it, it's like that's really creative and unique and interesting. When I couldn't find anything on the depository because maybe it's not in the on Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, but their story I can't find anywhere. I'd be interested to see and go back and see what Rod Sterling found on this story. So interesting if it deviates from like what he told, because a lot of times they'll take that story and kind of reconfigure it to make it more digestible than what they do. And I'm kind of curious now to go back and you bringing that up with like the two plays, if there's any semblance to this story. So I like that.
Well, in the way that people will always like say take a story and kind of like they'll take the source material, and I mean it's an obvious thing, they make it their own. They take their influences and their backgrounds and they infuse themselves into this existing story and make it something completely new. It's kind of cool.
But with that said, basically the last portion of this episode is the Major is not giving up. Everybody else is giving up. The Major's like, you know what? We're going to find a way to get out of here. So they decided to build a human kind of ladder.
Centipede.
And the balance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, human centipede. They're going to build to get out of here. And they send up the ballerina because, she's probably the most flexible when it comes to people who could probably get out of here and try and figure out what the problem is. And what's that? The lightest too. Yeah. So she can get out. She can. But of course, the ringing of the bell or some kind of bell causes them to all fall, and everybody almost dies. And of course, the Major, who's now very attracted to the ballet dancer, says, "You know what? We can do this. All we need to use is the bayonet and the rope, and we can get out of here. And you sit here, sit tight. I'll climb over the wall and save you. Later, or get thrown back in and never save you. I don't know. We'll figure it out." But basically, after a few tries, he's able to get the bayonet over. He climbs over and he falls into snow. So
one real quick thing before we get any further, I just want to point out that, well, that too, a proper kilt, like if you're talking traditional Scottish kilt, has 6 yards of fabric in it. So in theory, all they would have needed was the kilt to be able to go up over the wall and use that as your rope.
But this is the 1960s, Triv. I don't know if we need R-rated Twilight Zone.
I just show him from the waist up. I mean, there's nothing that says.
Plus he's balling.
Well, and plus he's got the score in there. He's got his little bag.
We're not doing front. Willie from Simpsons here.
Hey, I don't want to hear about his little bag. Okay.
Hey, look it up. No, it's actually a thing.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure
it covers all the Ghibli bits. That's all you need.
I'm sure. Joe's been to Scotland. She knows how these things work.
Yeah. I've been mooned once or twice too. So you know what? I have experience with all parts of that.
And she's done the mooned
on the interstate.
Good for you. By a Scotsman?
I don't know if he's Scottish. He was in a convertible, and I was on a bus when I was a kid, and we were like flipping people off like you do on the way back from a field trip. And these two guys in a convertible, one of them got up and straight dropped his pants and mooned all of us.
See, in most people's lives, when people are on buses, they ask the trucker to go, with the horn. Jacob's just like flipping people off and getting mooned.
Pants
like
down.
It's like.
Jacob, you never cease to not surprise me.
Right.
I got stories.
Yes.
Many stories.
It's funny. Apparently, this means pull your pants down, show us your ass and balls. Who knew? Cultures.
But when I love the feeling of like all the characters of the individuals as the guy falls into the snow. He's like, oh well, I guess we'll wait for the next person to wake up and find themselves in this pit of despair. Clown just like, whatever. And I mean, before we get into the actual like reveal, like, did you, if you were to watch this for the first time, would you honestly like think like, what would you honestly think? I don't know what to honestly think. Like it's such a crazy twist. Like, would you think that it would go where it went?
Being that he fell into snow, I would say there's nothing that prepares you for that if you're looking at this for the first time or if you watch this in the 60s. So I would say no. It'd be like, why did he fall into a pile of asbestos, and how long is it going to be until he gets mesothelioma?
Fell into a cocaine factory.
Also that. Hey, we're coming back to Cocaine Bear. That's awesome.
I mean, they were on the edge of the 70s, so you never know.
You're not untrue.
Yeah.
To answer your question, no, there's nothing here that would have given. Well, not for me when I first saw it. Nothing gave it away until they gave it away. Then it gave it away.
Give it away. Give it away now.
Give it away. Give it away. Give it away.
Yeah, I was in the same boat, so.
Okay.
Well, the thing
Yeah, I
is,
didn't know-
he doesn't drop like when he drops, he's actually drops as a doll, yeah.
No, he drops.
He's a
No,
human.
he drops
when
as
he first
himself.
starts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then he gets picked up
Um,
as a ginormous headed doll.
He's like a cubie
No,
doll.
but I thought when he lands in the snow, he's a doll.
That's what I
And
thought
then gets
too.
picked up.
I didn't.
you know what? Let me give me a few seconds. Let me go to Paramount.com.
All right, bring on the
I
Benny
think it's
Hill
also
music.
on Pluto TV.
Yes.
Is it?
Ah,
He falls into asbestos.
the
Wait,
French.
but how does he get picked up though?
He gets picked up as a doll.
But it won't be.
Oh,
Look at the fucking head on that thing.
the snow looks so different.
It does.
No,
That's great.
someone was trapped. Oh,
That's funny.
Yeah. But
I like how it's also for a girl's home.
Oh, I know,
totally
right?
forgot what
Right.
it was. I thought it was just a general like toy
Trash
drive
can.
thing, and then I totally forgot that it's not a fucking trash can. They're different. There's no liner on it.
Oh,
It's not a trash,
it's trash can. Somebody forgot to put a trash.
They
bag
literally
in.
say it's a barrel. It's a
It's a
barrel.
very
It's not a
large barrel.
trash can.
It's a barrel.
well, I have
We've
trash
been
I have
over
many.
this.
All right, we're doing
I have-
Thunderdome, the two of you. Go. Get prepared.
No, they're doing
Thunderdome.
They Live.
Guys, can't we
We're doing
just
like
get
last week.
beyond Thunderdome?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, anyways, outside of Triv's terrible jokes. No, I'm kidding.
Hey. That was half
So-
the episode last time, you dick.
that was more than half.
I know.
Yeah. The episode's only 25 minutes long, so you're welcome. People in the world that don't. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, with that said, you guys have kind of alluded to the ending. So once he falls in the snow,
We
they
straight
look
told
up.
the
They're like,
ending.
well, let me
We alluded
do it
to
the
it. We
professional
just showed
way.
the ending.
Well, I mean, maybe I edited it out. You don't know what I do. No, but basically the ending, the twist, what makes it kind of great, because I mean, you could look at this like a very standard Twilight Zone existential crisis type episode, but it gets into, no, we're gonna pull the rug out of you we're gonna pull the rug from under
Rug
you.
out of you.
Yeah, we're gonna pull the rug out of your ass. No, but
And pull the rug off
The-
these nuts.
oh my God. So anyway, so when we pan back to the guy, he's now a doll. The young girl picks up the doll, and we find out.
Couldn't
So-
from a mouse pointer.
So anyway, so he picks up the doll. The young girl picks up the doll, and we find out that the bell is the woman that's for charity. We find out it's a doll, and when they pan over, when the girl's like, "I'm just throwing you back into the dumpster," or the barrel, we find out all the
He
characters
said it.
are.
He said it.
Whose side are you on, Nick?
I'm not on
Whose
anybody's side. I
side
just
are you
The right
on?
side.
No,
God, what
he
is
said
that?
barrel
What in
afterward.
the fuck?
Corrected himself.
yeah, I made a mistake.
Oh my god.
I'm like Will Arnett in Arrested Development. I've made a mistake.
Oh my
No, but,
gosh,
like,
there are
okay,
5
so-
bells in the barrel. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I gotta ask you guys this question: like, now that we've learned that they're $5 in a barrel, like, what does that mean for the entire episode as like this existential crisis? Like, what the ballerina's hand does go towards the major's hand, so there's like kind of a relationship there, but it brings up a lot of questions about like, was all this real? Was all of this fake? Was all of this kind of a trick on the mind? Is this like an alternate dimension? Like, what exactly is going on here? Because
So
even though the major's outside the barrel, it just brings up like a whole can of like, are they part of the Toy Story world where if humans see
whole
them, they
can of
turn into
worms.
a whole can of worms, whatever. But
Don't
do they
forget
turn
the
into
tear that the ballet dancer
Oh yeah.
Oh, she had a tear. Oh, I actually didn't.
Yeah, she did.
I
And then
didn't
it
see that.
pans up to the sky when Rod says the closing narration. That's like the last
So
shot.
the
Oh, okay, I
ballerina
missed that
is
then.
Bo Peep,
Yeah.
and the major is Woody.
I mean, sure.
I'm the only
Yeah,
one.
makes-
I'm the only one that gets
Thank
it.
you for sharing your thoughts. Is that you've been holding on to this whole time? By the
No,
way.
no.
Oh,
My
okay.
question
I was
was
gonna
an
say,
Iggy's
like,
segment,
that
but-
was actually really fucking lame if that
A
was
Woody.
what you were holding on to this
No,
whole
the-
time.
I already asked the question. It was who the fuck has a hobo action figure?
His name is Jeremy.
Look, it's Hobo Jeremy. I want to see that commercial.
Hey, have you not lived in the 60s, Jacob? All the
G.I.
characters that were given
Joe.
as toys were all
Jeremy
random.
Hobo, All American Tramp.
I think you're gonna
hell
start
is
singing
Up
the
your own
Garwood
trains
song.
now.
Jacob
Optional
makes his
shotgun
first
sold
million,
separately.
and he comes out with a Jeremy the Hobo toy.
Yes.
Good lord.
Oh, man. But no, like it just brings up a lot of questions about like like is this a Toy Story type of thing where when humans see them they turn into back in the dolls, or they turn like it's just a very interesting twist to have in an episode that plays out like they're stuck in the 7th level of hell or something like that, or the 6th level of hell, and here is just they're action dolls and a barrel being given away to children, which I
Is it
love
like
the ending
magic?
to this.
Like,
I mean, it could be like never ending story or something.
Well, like when somebody looks at them, they freeze, because like in Toy Story, it's not like that. It's like they are aware. Well, for the most part, they are. So when they see like kids or people, they just kind of go ugh, and like fall over. But these
He loses
guys,
his Woody.
he loses his Woody.
I always
No.
just kind of took that it was like the love of the kids that kind of raised them, or that had them, like that imbued them with a certain kind of life, and to not have that,
Well,
especially with the ballerina,
Andy
you
threw
see
him
her,
away.
you see that missing aspect of it. So, but
Well,
then
that's
there's,
why I bring up.
but then it's kind of like purgatory, because they're getting the chance, to be loved again by kids at this
Well, that's
charity
what I was
barrel.
gonna say. It's almost like
Girls' school.
loneliness a little bit, because they're in this barrel, they're not being looked at by anybody, so that they can come to life or whatever, and it's
Well,
a
I think
very
that was
lonely
just
existence.
for the toys to be collected to then be like gifted away, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, no, it was, but it just
girls'
it's
home.
interesting how like nobody really kind of there's like because the daughter asked the woman it's like about it, and it's like, oh, it's been really not very good this year for toy drives and deliveries, and that's why I bring up the loneliness thing, because these characters are just stuck in this barrel with people walking by not donating, so it almost feels like little bit of a sad thing. But I love the closing narration because it has like a hopeful nature to it, which a lot of these episodes don't. They get into like very dark, very sad commentary on whatever they're talking about, but here they're like, we'll get into it, but here in a couple minutes. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of, if you kind of break down the story, like what is it really representing on the human psychology level type of thing. I don't know.
I don't think
I
it
look
went
at these
that
things
deep.
weird, I guess.
I
You
think
don't
they
think it
just
went
had a
that deep?
clever little kind of, and they said, "Hey, let's make some toys in the bottom of a trash can," and they don't know it. They're trying to get out, and we won't know it till the end.
I mean, can you imagine if if the barrel was full though? Like everybody is in there like going, everybody's freaking out, and the ones at the bottom are like, guys, come on, chill.
Like, what other toys would they have had around that time, circa 1960?
They
like
would
an
have had like an
Indian?
army man.
Yeah, the Indian. Well, they got an
Indian
army man.
They would have had like Fisher
Indian,
Price,
Well, like a guy in the
Ow.
military.
They would have had
Probably, like baby dolls kind of thing.
Yeah.
like a baby down there crying
doll.
nonstop, and they're like, "Jesus Christ, get this baby to shut up!" It would have been a giant baby.
But I would think that would have made it a very different episode too if it was just sort of, I mean, again, if they were just sort of generic toys
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I think that's the thing, like you can't not that you shouldn't like look at it and critique it, but I think you do have to take it at surface level, because with something like this, that is kind of where it starts and stops.
For sure.
And it's an interesting premise. It's it's just as much the challenge of trying to tell the story in a singular space as it is, and keeping it quiet as to what it actually represents as much as anything.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like verbal and physical, like more like physical cues, I would say. They make a lot more sense upon rewatch too. Like especially with how like they move from time to time, or when they kind of say they're deprived of food and water, but also just kind of don't seem like they're
It's
I
not
don't know,
it's
necessarily like disheveled in a way where like someone who I guess maybe was like stranded in the middle of nowhere, for example, would probably be
right.
after a few days or something.
I
Well,
mean,
they
the
don't
only
seem like
one that
people.
shows,
They seem like
yeah,
caricatures, which they are. Like
Yeah.
the ballerina's just like talking and just randomly like, and like the bagpiper's just like playing music all the time. They're doing, their one thing the whole time.
Wasn't there like one moment too where like they were I think it was I don't remember, I think it might have been all of them but the major or something were like performing like certain like I don't
When
know
they
like
all came out.
actions like in a line sort of thing.
Yeah, that's
Like, they kind of
the clown's on the ground and the three come in with the bagpipes playing at like near the very beginning.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
it-
like I
it's
think
like a
that's
conga
after
line.
the commercial break, I'm pretty sure, or something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean
I don't remember.
it comes in well, no, it comes in pretty early, but it's almost like you hear the traditional bagpipe playing and you see the ballerina doing the weird creepy ballerina dance, and the Jeremy comes in, I think he has a knapsack or something like that on
The
his
Ho
back that
Jeremy.
he's carrying it. I did read while you guys were talking, I found out that the set that looks like they're climbing up the barrel was actually positioned at a 45-degree angle with a mat below them, so it wasn't totally on the ground, but it was 45. It was so they could
okay.
shoot up to
Yeah,
make it
that's
look
what
like
it
it
seems
was.
like to me. Like it seems like it was
Yeah.
elevated a bit off the ground.
Makes sense.
Apparently they
So
had
all their
two
weight
sets.
wasn't going straight back; it was still going somewhat down. And like, there's a part where they
Yeah.
jump down. Like some of them jump down, so they could still do that.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
think it allowed them to like still pretend they were kind of wobbly too, but like at least feel secure enough. I guess sort of act that out without feeling like they actually would lose balance.
That would be
Um,
getting up. That would be. I mean, if you were literally like at that angle or at a 90-degree angle, yeah, that would be, oof, a lot of oof.
and Triv, I am sorry they didn't use Mission Impossible masks to put the likeness on the dummies. So I'm sorry. I know you were really looking forward to that. Apparently they
I
did
was.
create like miniature masks though of like whatever that stuff they put on to create a mold.
Plaster.
And that's why
Or
yeah, that's why
latex?
so whatever it was, that's how they created the likeness of the dolls.
Ah,
Because if you
nice.
look at the dolls, they're really close to the actual character, even though they're not the character. They're just like a really interesting kind of how they were able to do lifelike in the 1960s.
Yeah.
Except for the
They didn't just
major, the
actually
big
have
giant
people.
head.
Yeah, they didn't actually
Wow.
have them like just stay totally still the way
No.
they have in past episodes.
No, they're actually dolls, which I find interesting. The level of detail that they're willing to do sometimes in the show is quite different than a lot of shows in this time frame.
Yeah.
The episodes they give a shit about.
Yeah, well, that too.
Ooh.
It's not like Mr. Ed where they just had like, with the mouth of the horse moving on its own or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Wilbur.
I mean, television was still pretty new. Like even in
Yeah,
the
it was.
early
Yeah.
60s too. So there's also that to keep in mind.
Very true.
Where like I
Well-
think even cinema had only been around for like since like the very late, I would say like 19th century before, I think about the time like cinema was more popularized was probably around like the 20s and 30s. And even then there
Yeah.
was like the Great Depression, World Wars. I
Yeah,
guess stuff like
Hollywood
that kind of plays a role.
Hollywood kind of came into its own in the like teens, and then it kind of developed from there into a more of an industry in the 20s. So
Yeah, that's why that Once Upon a Time, the Buster Keaton episode, is so fascinating, because it allows the kind of the history up to that point to be represented in a TV series. And that's why the Twilight Zone does really well, is it creates these interesting like worlds and interesting ideas that even today seem wholly original for, even though it's 1960 and things have changed and things have gotten a little bit better, the story is still wholly unique for something that was 1960, when the idea of like the craziness of the sci-fi, spin on everything was, slightly taking hold. But I find it fascinating that he can do an episode like this, do an episode about the Civil War, episode, about aliens coming down to eat people, and nobody else was doing that kind of stuff. That's why the Twilight Zone is so different than anything that was on TV at the time.
very much.
So yeah. But with that said, I'm assuming that everybody liked the episode. I'm guessing. I'm hoping.
That was a little
If you
shit.
guys, he's putting it below
You
per
can
chance to
let
dream.
yourself out now. It's just
Escaping the Jeremy's hobo-ness or whatever.
we stand
Catch a ride in his
Jeremy.
sack.
Woohoo.
We stand Jeremy on this podcast.
Absolutely.
But do you guys have anything you wanted to say more about this episode that we haven't talked about or that I haven't said already?
I mean, I think you covered most everything as far as it goes. You know, the premise.
Did I miss anything?
It's well, you know, there was that one thing, but I'm not going to bring it up because reasons.
That's mighty nice of you.
You know, I try to help where I can. No, I think it was a with a lot of the episodes that have kind of ended up a little bit lower on the list. The story was very simple, but with like this one here, it's done in a way that makes sense. They took a very simple story, and because of the people doing the acting, because of the way that it's shot and the verbiage and such, it doesn't feel like you're being exposited to death. It makes sense. They were smart in the way that they played to the character strengths of each kind of stereotype, and it worked well. I enjoyed this episode.
Like I said, I really like these type of single setting stories. This episode absolutely like all of its success rides on the ending. If the ending is not like ooh and ah ending, if the payoff's not there, then this one just doesn't work. Which you say that about a lot of things, but you have some stories that it's kind of like, oh well, the journey was really good. Not to say the journey was bad here, but if this had not had a hell of a ending, I don't think it would have been looked at as as fondly as it is. I still like the episode though. I think it was a great episode. It kept me engaged the whole time. I was interested in it. I like the characters. They are very simple. The story is extremely simple, but simple is not a bad thing. I think it has a really good payoff for what it is. It catches you. It knows when to end, and it does that at the right time, and then just goes on. I don't really think there's a whole lot to dissect as far as the story goes. I just think it was, just this really interesting idea that they had, and they executed it very well. I do wonder if the ending had not been this, if it had been something else, or if maybe it was more vague or something like that, would we still look at this episode as fondly as we do? Was the whole episode what sold you on it, or was it the ending?
A good question. That kind of takes it back to what was it? Third from the Sun had that just absolute banger. Exactly. I do think that this one stands on its own. There's enough
better than that one, yes.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that this is Alex talked about it before, how you can't look at this one the same on follow-up watches as you do on the first watch. It is kind of like The Sixth Sense and the things that happen with that. You can still appreciate it and everything that it does, but once you have that first watch, and obviously there are other movies that have twists like that, but there are certain ones where it's like such a revelation. You're like, it comes at you out of left field and you don't expect it. And that's kind of what this was. I do think you can still enjoy it after that, but there's more to it than just a banger ending.
Yeah, I think to certain man's like that as well. Like it has that banger ending, but I think once you know the ending, it ruins it a little bit. It kind of makes it a little bit lesser, but not bad. But it just it's all paid on the twist type of thing. So,
but don't you think too?
Oh, absolutely.
It's basically it's a cookbook of it's called
no, I was just knowing. I didn't know what the title was.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, To Serve Man. Yeah, To Serve Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I still think that overall episode though still does work. I think it just kind of I think what makes that overall episode work, even like regardless of whether you know the ending or not, really is just sort of like even if you know the ending and rewatch it, I think you can still have a great time with it, kind of having that perspective of, oh, something that what the aliens do but the humans don't, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't really remember what that's like. You kind of have that sort of like, I guess, like perspective on it that you otherwise wouldn't have, like on a first watch kind of thing.
Right. And what I was gonna say real quick is this kind of episode is a perfect episode. Like if somebody was really interested in the Twilight Zone, this would be a great episode to show them, because it has the stereotypical characters, which Rod Serling is known for writing, it has that twist ending, which he's also known for doing. So it's like watching The Sixth Sense. It's a good way to integrate people into the series. You could show them like Eye of the Beholder. You could show them Nick of Time and stuff like that. There's a Nick of Time, the one with Burgess Meredith. But this feels like one of those episodes that would be perfect as a starting point.
I think also, while I do think that this wholly depends on its ending, I like one of the ones, and I've talked about this episode ad nauseum, the Third from the Sun one. I brought that example up a bunch of times. I'll bring it up here because they're similar in that way. It's like they totally depend on the ending. The difference in this one and that one is that one, going back to watch it, I don't think would be as interesting. I would be waiting for the ending the whole time. The whole time watching Third from the Sun again, I'd just be like, okay, get to the good part, the last 60 seconds. This one, even though I know the ending, I knew it going into this one, this watch, I still was entertained because they kept it tight and they focused on the problem at hand, which was, where are we? Get out of here. Even though I know where they are and what's going to transpire, I thought it was just really well. It was well executed. It was interesting seeing these characters come to these different logical conclusions within their world and trying to like these different ways to get out of this predicament. So I think it was just a well executed episode. It was very simple. I think if they had tried to make it more, if they had tried to go into explaining things more and like adding more lore to the whole story, I think it would have ruined it. That's why an hour long, I do not think this would work as an hour long episode.
It's actually interesting. I was looking up Lamont Johnson because I was looking up the Felicity trivia that they had. I didn't know Lamont Johnson directed episodes all the way into the 90s. Like he did a lot of stuff, and he actually, there was an homage to this episode in an episode that he directed that was written by J.J. Abrams. I found that interesting, so I figured I'd bring that up. But
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that he's directed for 5-6 decades of his life.
He's kind of pulling a Corman. Yeah.
Yeah, like James Burrows, who's a famous director on TV. But anyways, with that said, that's kind of the episode. It's like I said, not the most complex episode, but it has pretty much a banger of an ending that a lot of people remember for that. So, but anyways, that's
Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like Friday night at 8 p.m. type of episode. So with that said, that's 5 Characters in Search of an Exit, season 3, episode 14. And let's head into everybody's favorite thing to do on a podcast or a YouTube channel. Jacob. Oh, that's right. Let me roll that back. So Jacob, do the closing narration. And I'll redo all that.
I was going to see how long
I didn't have a post-it note asking about the closing narration. So
you should have done that.
Actually got to it. I was thinking about it, but I was like, it's gonna be dead. Like the joke's gonna be dead at that point. You know? Like they'll remember.
There is no joke that's dead on this.
I don't have to remind it. I don't have to remind them twice, right?
No, yeah, you always have to remind us twice. We're old. You have to remind us every time.
Anyway,
I've been told I'm old. Actually, no, I'm also been told that I've been young. Young people think I'm younger than I am, so it's funny.
You're timeless. You're
I
like
hope
the Twilight Zone.
Still think I'm younger than I am. Anyway, let's not answer that question. Just a barrel, a dark depository where are kept the counterfeit make-believe pieces of plaster and cloth, wrought in a distorted image of human life. But this added hopeful note. Perhaps they are uninvolved or unloved, not uninvolved, unloved. That makes more sense. Only for the movement. In the arms of children, there can be nothing but love. A clown, a tramp, a bagpipe player, a ballet dancer, and a major. Tonight's cast of players on the odd stage known as the Twilight Zone.
Jacob went real hard on that, and then he did something that Alex pointed out, noticed, and started laughing. And I'm like,
what did I do?
It's like nothing. When you yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I didn't. I was just saying.
You went hard.
Here.
Oh, the unloved, uninvolved. I don't know why I thought it looked like uninvolved as I was going. They
so
are uninvolved for the moment.
In the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
In the arms of children, there can be nothing but love.
Jacob doesn't consider himself lonely, so then he was like, "That's not relatable to me. I'm just gonna change it."
Exactly.
He's got several kids and many goats and chickens. I don't think he's ever lonely.
He just needs a cow now. They'll be complete.
See, if I read it, I wouldn't have made that error.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, I think that's a challenge. I think Alex, I think you need to come on just to do the opening close.
Is all I'm saying.
That takes all the fun out of it.
No,
that
it
takes
does not. It's
extra
literally
work.
We literally talked about a thespian clown, and you don't even take the time to at least read it once.
I'm a clown for sure, if not a thespian clown.
You know, you said, you know what? Your words, not mine, man. I'm just saying. It doesn't take, like, I read the narrations. I read the narrations before I got here.
Come on now, let's be real. Had I read it earlier today, I probably still would have flubbed it.
He is nothing if not consistent.
That's part of the fun. Maybe I do it on purpose.
Yeah. Like when I stumble through the the synopsis. Yeah, that's all pre-planned.
I'm just here for the booze.
I'm still waiting for you to send me booze. What's wrong with you, Trev?
You can't.
You gotta give me the deed. Give me the deed to your theater so I can get free booze.
No. Besides that, you cannot legally send booze through the mail because of prohibition.
You need to show a real physical ID for that too.
Yeah, very true.
But with that said, that is the 5 characters in search of an exit, season 3, episode 14. And let's go ahead and head into the Twilight Zone ranking list. What's that?
It's 3.14. Like 5.
Oh, you're right. It is. That's awesome.
If only it were Pi
funny.
Day. That would have been funny.
Pie.
It is Pi Day.
Pie.
March 14th.
Oh yes, that's true. See,
Why are you
Nick.
looking it up?
I had to look it up. I'm looking it up. She's like, "What the hell are you talking
You
about?"
lemon sucker.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I don't think. That's why I do a Twilight Zone podcast with Triv and Jacob.
Well,
they
thanks.
think for me. Hey, I'm
Uh-huh.
There's always a running joke in the podcast I do. I don't know. Maybe it's not a running joke, but there's always a thing in the podcast where I've always been the host on every podcast I've ever done. And I said one day, I said to Triv and Jacob, I said, if I were to have to take a week off, could you do it? They're like, we'll just do it next week. I'm like, really? Really? You got
we tangent like nobody's damn business. Like we need Nick's
but that'd
guiding
been fine.
hand.
Like I would have given you an episode like that was crappy, and you guys could have just tangented about dad jokes and whatever the hell else you guys want to tangent about. I just
Because
think
they
it's funny,
know.
like
podcast without you.
like
it
I'm
would
like
be
the glue
easier
that
to
can't
pour
hold this
hot
the
butter
podcast
in a
together.
wildcat's ear.
What?
I don't know.
I didn't
what are you
grasp
saying,
a
but
single thing you said. That just was like gibberish in my ears.
apparently I'm
Such a June
the
prune.
Sometimes it's
apparently
best
I'm the
just
glue
to
that
nod
holds
your
this
head.
podcast together that can't hold it together. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, with that said, let's do the Twilight Zone ranking list. The greatest
Yay.
ranking list that Rod Serling would have loved. And of course, everybody loves a good ranking list on YouTube and Twitter and everywhere you can imagine. So yeah, so I sent you guys all the list. This is where Jacob goes, why'd you send us the bottom half of the list? Because I know we're gonna put this in the top half. So
Do you though?
where we put this? I don't know.
Number
I know
3.
you wanted above game. Triv, like I said,
25.
25.
Better than 24.
Hey, Nick, do you know what comes after 24?
25.
You have your choice, number 3 or number 25.
I go with number 180.
It's not even that many episodes.
Hmm.
There was only 150 in the series, though.
I know.
Exactly.
That's a
Well, I
trash
mean, we haven't gotten into-
pick.
Throw it in the trash can. I don't know. Like, is this a top 20 episode?
I would personally say it is.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
But not a top 10 episode?
Hey, I have to look over the list. Give me a second.
No, take your time. I'm just kind of
Ah.
positioning it where maybe we go.
I don't know about top
That'd
10.
be
I
quite
mean, we might end up putting it there, and I don't know, but just off the top of my head, I think it's a great episode, and it is quintessential Twilight Zone. But I don't know if I would call it top 10. It's definitely on up there for sure. But then again, I'm not even looking at what we have in the top 10 right now. So I might start looking at it and be like, oh, I like it better than that one. Things that we're ranking, I probably should look. But I usually wait for them to pick like an area, and then I'm like, well, okay.
See, Alex is the only one that would come onto our podcast and question our ability to rank stuff.
I'm
I
okay with
appreciate
that because we need that.
Highly doubt.
Well,
she's
no,
the
because
only
like
one.
all our guests come on, they're like, you know what? That seems fine. Alex like, fuck this list. This list sucks.
Yeah.
And she'll give like,
I'll
she's
give you
like,
that.
Why is the
She's
passerby
the only
all
one
the
that
way
will
down to the
openly
bottom?
question it. I think everyone questions it.
I mean, I'm autistic, man. I'm just blunt sometimes.
Nothing. We appreciate the hell out of you for that.
Someone's
I
gotta
will
be blunt
say,
on
I'm
this
trying to remember what
podcast.
the grave. Oh, the grave was one of the Western episodes, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it was
basically
Lee
the ending
Marvin
was
He
the
fell to his
guy
death.
the guy like stabbed a knife into the grave, and he basically died of fright because his coat got stuck.
You got up and went, ah.
Yep.
Oh, I don't even remember that episode.
They're kind of talking about how was it he shot the
Yeah,
We never
Levon Cleef in it and stuff. Yeah, it had, like the weird widowed sister, the sister who
Yeah,
had
she's
the
very
plate.
drunk.
Yeah, I like. For some reason, I cannot remember that episode for the life of me. That's crazy. I would say
That might just be us describing it too.
I'm trying to look it up too, and I'm like trying to like remember it. There's so many episodes. Honestly, I was gonna say like around like 15, 16, which is why I looked it up.
I think that's fair.
At least according to your ranking. Only because I think that this episode is definitely like definitive Twilight Zone. But I think with the other episodes that you have, like at least with like the top 15, they're already like really solid to me personally.
Woohoo.
So
We don't suck, guys. We don't suck.
I want to put in
Oh,
that.
we suck.
get
We just suck in
crazy.
a
But I
different
think
way.
for what it's worth with your list, I think it's, those episodes are pretty solid.
With this dumpster fire of a list.
Yeah, that's why we love it.
Where's the
Dumpster trash can.
go on the dumpster fire?
I'm with you
Yes.
though, Alex. I think like his world of his own, from like that's kind of my like everything above that is it takes something really special to go above that. Not to say this isn't a
Mhm.
solid episode, but for myself, I would watch pretty much any of the 15 above that before I would watch this one again. And mostly
Mhm.
because like and again, it's not that it's not a good episode, but after you watch it the first time, you do have that, you know what's going on. You don't necessarily revisit it because you already know it. Like you appreciate it and you can go back and watch it occasionally, but it's not when you're gonna pick up on a random
Mhm.
Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely go down, like a little lower too.
I mean, I like
I mean, I could
Once
just,
Upon a Time
I mean,
more,
we
but
could
that's
put
me.
it like, we can put it below Game of Pool just out of spite for Jacob, but you know.
What?
What? Nothing.
No. Or yeah, it could go below Game Pool. At number 25.
I'd have to go at
Yeah,
number
but
20.
then transferring would be 26.
That's the Hitchhiker.
I mean, I can put this right above
don't think you
Hitchhiker, right
can
below
get-
Per Chance to Dream.
Well, I mean, I was saying that just because a Game of Pool is a very memorable episode. Like I think
I tried
even if
to
you're not a
push for
fan of,
higher.
like, I appreciate you doing that because it's a good ass episode.
It is.
I'm not
No,
even
they
really
weren't
a
having
big fan
it.
of sports, but like I
I would
think
like to-
that one, like the fact, I mean, that was another episode too where it was that single setting, but it had like the two people,
Mhm.
like it had like a 2-person dynamic.
I'd like to
working
point
through the
out
entire thing.
that in the original Per Chance to Dream episode that I was not part of, Nick wanted it to go higher. Higher being lower.
Oh God. Okay, it's my
He
fault.
was talked out
I'm
of it.
terrible. I
Okay,
suck. I'm
if
sorry.
No,
have you seen
I was
Batman the
brought-
animated series though?
He was bribed.
What
Okay,
did I
have you
bribe
seen-
him with?
okay. I will say though, like one of the best episodes of Batman the
Cocaine and
animated series is Per Chance to
hookers.
Dream, and in my opinion, that episode is better than the Twilight Zone one. In my opinion,
Which
but
one is
I
that?
think
Which one?
it involves
Uh,
the Mad Hatter.
Oh yes,
you're
that is a
right,
good one.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a very
yeah. I
good
remember that.
episode for sure.
I
like
honestly,
that-
here's
will
where I
agree
would.
with you on that, but
Yeah.
you know.
I think this episode is better than Nick of Time, but not as good as It's a Good Life. That's kind of where I would put it. That's just how I feel,
What
just based
was-
on.
wait,
Good Life was the end of season 1, right? No.
No.
No, It's a Good Life was the
World of His
cornfield.
Own is the end of
Yeah.
season 1.
Yeah,
I think A World of His Own is, I mean, I do think that's a good episode, a solid episode. I think that the more memorable part of that episode, at least from my recollection of it, really is just Serling appearing in it towards
The
the
end.
end. And it's definitely like one of those comedic episodes where I think, I don't know, especially with the Twilight Zone, I just feel like, especially with the more like comedic ones, it can definitely be hit or miss for people. Like there are a few like comedic ones that stood out to me, but I'm sure probably don't for other people.
Understandable.
Yeah. Well, I think like the more dramatic ones are what you think of with the Twilight Zone though. And I think, this one like has like, I guess like a comical, I guess sort of setup, but it definitely is like played very like melodramatically kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those episodes that just stands out on characters and the actual story, and I mean the ending, like Jacob alluded to. I think Nick of Time's a good episode. I just think this one just feels better than Nick of Time. Nick of Time's like one of those episodes that I love, but just I don't know, when I find episodes like this, I find it more compelling than Nick of Time, because
I would
All it is
rewatch
a
this one
guy
more than
obsessed.
Nick of Time personally.
Yeah.
It's a Good Life is the guy who's in the movie.
No, it's a good life is the kid that wishes people into the
Oh
cornfield.
yeah. I'm sorry, we just watched
No,
that.
it's all good.
I like that one, just that whole episode and everything behind it more than this one. Nick of Time. Which one
It's
was
the
that?
Shatner.
That's where he keeps putting
Shatner
the
and
pennies in the thing and
Oh.
asking it questions.
Yeah, we looked up the price of the
Yeah.
replica. It was like $6,000 or something like
I like
that.
this one more than Nick of Time. Like ever, like just, I mean, nothing against Nick of Time. I'd watch this one before Nick of Time.
And
Yeah,
I mean, this
it's
is like in the area that you were talking about, anyways, Alex. Like where you would put it on our list. So I don't know if that would be all right, or I don't know.
I agree. I mean, it is your podcast too, so you have more.
Well,
leadership
I mean,
than
I try to
do.
make it my podcast, but they keep asking me for money, so I put them in a barrel. I throw them for
in
donations.
the trash can.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You threw me in the trash can. And Trig gets a barrel.
You
Yeah.
go in the trash can, and then other things go in a barrel.
My theater got exploded and I was left in a barrel too, so
yeah, but you build a better theater that you'll give to me eventually.
I don't have any
No.
excuses. I just started in a trash can.
And now you're in outer space.
My parents dropped me off there when I was a baby.
Aw.
Were you born a poor black child?
Yes,
Oh God. Okay.
I did the
Cool.
thing Michael Jackson
So,
did.
so is that all right? Putting it below It's a Good Life, above Nick of Time.
Yes,
I'm okay with that.
Jacob's like, I'll allow it. See, Jacob,
I
you're
lost my
supposed to be the
pointer
guy
again.
that can like predict these things when I say it. Like you should have them on the fly. There you go. Now I'm gonna have
Did
to
he
edit.
even have
Now
a
you're making me
prediction though? Like I thought he was only just trying to fight for it to, like, because of perchance a dream spot.
That is exactly.
I think
I'm a trained
I think
monkey.
he's given up. He's a trained monkey.
Literally, it's in the top 25 anyway. Like, be grateful, my guy. Like, it's not even that low. It's in the top half of the list.
It has been. That took a lot of work.
I
Especially
think it
with
was
some
like
of
in the
the
top 10
episodes
for
we
Yeah,
did.
not
like,
on your
about a year.
part, trying to push it down. Like, hello.
I have been successful at this thus far. It will be in the
I mean, it
second
was only-
half.
To be fair, it was a given at some point. The episode is going to have to go down the list at some point. When you have like 5 characters in search of an exit and it's a third man coming up and the monsters due on Maple Street. It's when you get to episodes like Death Heads Revisited where you're like, I guess
What's
it's a top
halfway?
10 episode.
It's halfway, set like 78, something like that.
Yeah, we're 79 now.
70, but I mean,
We don't look a day over 56.
Okay, 78 is halfway.
I'm 84. I don't know what you're saying.
That is true.
I got to get it to number 78.
I would like to see you try.
So we need about
Halfway. Hold on, I gotta.
approximately 50 more to go under it.
Yeah, you get 70
halfway to
episodes.
150 is 75, Jacob.
Huh? There's
75.
156 episodes,
Half of 150 is 75.
but there's 156 episodes.
No, it's 150.
Is it? I thought it was 156. You guys lied to me. My whole
No,
life
it's
is a
Actually,
lie.
I'm
150
sitting.
even, isn't it?
I think
No, it's
it's
156.
Clearly, I don't know.
Is it 156?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I show up when they tell me and just click on the next episode. I don't know. There could be 572.
Maybe I just consolidated it to being 150.
Well, considering
you
that
get-
some
you
of
get
those
rid of- you get rid of
episodes
the-
should
Oh, it
be
is
shit.
156. Well,
yeah, you get rid of the 4
I'm sorry, what-
seasons. So you
Yeah.
What was that?
what was that? Let
No,
me
you get-
recheck
but
your
see-
math. Give me a second.
Oh,
she's doing it right though. She got rid of the 4 seasons, so there technically is 150 episodes. So give her that 4 season. So we'll
Well,
give
fourth
her the
season
win,
had
Jacob.
like 18 episodes.
I was gonna say there's only 6 in the
Yeah.
fourth. The math ain't mathing here tonight at all for anybody.
Okay, it is halfway to 156 in that case. But I'm pretty
Yeah.
78,
sure. How many
right?
episodes did Twilight season 4 have?
16 or 18.
It had half of like
Yeah.
what most of the seasons saw.
Yeah, I just don't remember. Oh, it was 18.
All I know is
have
we're
fun
one
watching
episode
those,
close.
because those
18
are
to
an
yeah,
hour
I heard.
long.
Oof.
I was gonna say we're one episode closer to season
Oof.
4, and I'm not ready for that. That's like the dregs.
Not all of them. Printer's Demon is good.
You keep saying
Right.
that, but I worry that you're more worried about Jezebel being the great.
Well, I am worried about Jezebel because it's a fucking dumpster fire.
I personally did not like Jezebel at all.
That
I
sucked.
couldn't care less when I watched it.
It goes on.
So-
It's
so-
hard at half an hour, much less an hour for me.
So Alex's next episode will be Jezebel.
Oh
we
God.
just want to hear about. No, I'm just kidding. anyways,
I was
let's
gonna say
finish up.
miniature, but like okay.
Well, no, I think if you
Or
want to
maybe
come back for
sooner if you
miniature,
want
then
me.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh
I
no,
don't know,
yeah, I'm
tell me
joking.
sooner,
Yeah,
I'll
you,
show up, I guess.
yeah, please, please don't come on
Yeah.
Jezebel
And I can
if it like
educate
gives
Jacob
you.
about the difference between a trash can and a barrel. You know,
Can we meet
because
half and
there's a
say
huge difference.
a trash barrel?
This is in crate and barrel. There's a difference, and even then, it's a barrel. There are different kinds of barrel. There are different
Trash
kinds of
barrels
trash
are
cans. But
one of
they're
those different kinds.
different.
Very
All
different.
right, you guys argue
One's
with this.
more
I'll finish
cylindrical.
out the episodes. So, anyways, with that said, new number 14 is 5 characters in search of an exit. Number 1 is still Eye of the Beholder. Number 79 is A Trouble with Templeton. Next episode, since I completely went out of the Wikipedia page, give me 1 second. The next episode is season 3, episode 15, Quality of Mercy, directed by Buzz Kulik, written by Rod Serling. This has Dean Stockwell and Leonard Nimoy in it, so that's cool. Nanu, exactly. Albert Salmi, Rayford
Albert
Barnes.
Salami.
Yeah,
This
Salmi.
would be an interesting episode.
Is that like
It's
Joe
just cool-
Baloney?
Sure. It's just cool that it has Dean Stockwell, who I love, Quantum Leap, as you referenced, and we referenced in many episodes, and Leonard Nimoy, right before he went to Star Trek. So that's cool. Yeah, another World War II episode. So hopefully we'll see where it lands, because I don't remember this episode at all. So, but with that said, Alex, thank you for trying to come on and put Jacob in his place. I think you did pretty well, but we need you to come on more often to keep doing that for us. So, but
Nice attempt.
with that said,
But
Failed.
But with that said, I'm assuming you still have a YouTube channel, and you have good content. So where's that located?
oh yeah, my self
YouTube.
promo plug. What fun. Let's see. I have a YouTube channel. It's Alex Carson, and I'm going to start posting content again soon. And then I also have an Instagram. It's at I am Alex Laren. I'll tell Nick how to spell it, because there's an explanation for it. But also I'd like to also plug Ultra Benasiak, who does work on Channel Awesome. He has a series that he's been doing for the past few years called Twilight Tober Zone. He's going through every episode of the Twilight Zone and using Mark Scott Secree's book to kind of reference off of it. He's also done Batman, where he's covered pretty much every episode of Batman the Animated Series, so it's kind of a similar vibe. But yeah, if you want more like in-depth, I definitely recommend checking that out. That happens every October.
Nice.
Excellent. And yeah, Alex, I know you did a lot of Twilight Zone content too, which is awesome stuff. I think that's actually where we kind of, or at least I found you from, was all your content on the Twilight Zone. So yeah, definitely check that stuff out, because it's really good stuff. And
That is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Triv, when you give me your theater one day soon,
No.
I'll be able to help promote your content, because you'll see me promoting it from there. But
Sure.
for the time being, where can
Mhm.
that content be found at?
Once and always, you can find my stuff in my theater here on YouTube at Trivial Theater. I a few weeks back did a movie called Bloodhook, which was a fun little serial killer movie about a guy that kills with a musky lure. Coming up next is a movie called Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell, which is the really awesome Japanese take on Evil Dead. So definitely step over. Hopefully by the time this posts, it'll be up. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Trivial Theater.
Jacob, when you're not getting put in your place by Alex and told what to do, you have content. I don't know if you're getting ready to post your next video on your I can never remember how exactly it's Jacob XY.
Retro JKXY.
Retro Jake XY. I know you're getting ready to do something soon, but the content you have is good stuff. Where's it at?
Well, I have 2 YouTube channels. I have my old channel, Jacob Anders Reviews, which there's not much, there's a lot on there, but there's not much new going on there right now. Coming soon, but I'm focusing on my other newer channel, Retro JKXY, where I do mainly video game history documentaries. My Dreamcast one did very well. Check that out. And I have a new one. The first episode is complete. I'm working on the second episode, and I'm going to release it episodic for over the course of 4 or 5 weeks, like I did the last one. By the time this comes out, I'm hoping that it will be coming out the Friday after this, but if not, then it will be the following. Depends on a few factors, but yeah, it should be coming soon on something else that I will announce. If this is out and you know what my next video is going to be about, if I've advertised that, then it is coming. If not, well, it'll be a week.
Also, that's what she said.
If it's out,
yeah.
you'll know it.
I feel like the simple way would be like whenever I get it.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
If it's out,
It's coming. I think I said that with my first video. I said, "Oh, it's coming soon, man," for like 6 months.
that was like 3 months of jerking our chain.
Yeah, I jerk chains a lot. I'm working faster with this one.
So yeah, it's good content. Everybody on this channel who's here currently has great content. Definitely check their channels out. I am currently at Movie Emporium. I posted a lot of videos in the last couple of weeks. Still doing that mission. I think I'm done with Indiana Jones at the point this video posts. Like we're recording this like 3 weeks in advance. But I'm also doing Mission Impossible with Triv over here. Good stuff. Definitely check that out. Audio feeds, Anchor, SoundCloud, Audio Boom, iTunes, all that good stuff. Rate, subscribe. We need those likes and stuff like that to garner an audience so we can have our cake and sometimes eat it too. But for myself, Alex, Jacob, and Triv, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out, my friend.
Bye. As compared
You
to
put
Dennis
the passers-by at 59? I'm guessing you didn't relate. The passers-by, sorry. It's the Civil War one where like the soldiers are like in heaven, but like they're walking on that trail.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the passerby. Yeah.
I remember that dumpster fire.
Where's the trash can? It's trash cans to your left, Jacob. I don't need this trash talk over here. All right.
Well, the one good thing
is my boy.
You can spit it right back. So
yeah.
We also watched the 2000 something version of it. It was
there's another version of it.
Yeah, they remade it.
Oh.
On the 2000s.
Oh, the passerby. Yeah, it's like the very 2000s with all the the music, like
Creed.
2000s music. Yeah,
that's what you get in the 2000s. I mean that